My sister believes she's the main character and the universe owes her my cabin. Now my parents are bankrupt and she's banned from my property. Hi everyone. Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I, 30M, need to vent about a situation that's been destroying my peace for months. I own a mountain cabin in Colorado that I bought 3 years ago with money I saved working 2 jobs since college. It's nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom A-frame on 5 acres with a view of the peaks. I go there weekends to decompress from my job as a software engineer. My sister Emily, 26F, has always been what you'd call special, according to our parents, Robert, 59M, and Patricia, 57F. Growing up, everything revolved around her magnetic personality and natural leadership qualities. While I was studying for my computer science degree, she was getting kicked out of 3 colleges for being too advanced for their limited thinking. She now calls herself a life architect and consciousness coach on Instagram, where she has about 3,000 followers who apparently need daily reminders that they're divine beings having a human experience. The problem started 6 months ago when Emily visited my cabin for the first time. I'd finally finished renovating the deck and invited the family up for a weekend. The moment she stepped out of her car, a BMW our parents lease for her because image matters for influencers, she pressed her hands together like she was praying and declared, "This space was calling to me. I can feel its energy aligning with my frequency." I laughed it off, thinking she was just being her usual dramatic self. But throughout the weekend, she kept making comments. "James, don't you think this view is wasted on someone who just stares at screens all day? Or, this could be such a powerful healing center for my followers. You're literally hoarding transformational space." Our parents, predictably, agreed with everything. My mother actually said, "She has a point, honey. Emily needs inspiring environments to channel her gifts. You can work from anywhere with your computer thing." Since then, it's been relentless. Emily texts me daily with divine downloads about how the cabin is meant for her. Some highlights from the past week. Monday, had a vision during meditation. The cabin appeared to me surrounded by golden light. The universe is literally showing me it's mine. Tuesday, your resistance to sharing the cabin is actually blocking your own abundance. I'm trying to help you evolve past your scarcity mindset. Wednesday, natural leaders need headquarters that match their energy. Background characters don't understand this, and that's okay. Not everyone can be the protagonist. Thursday, I did a tarot reading about the cabin. The cards say a transfer of ownership would benefit everyone's highest good. Friday, my shaman says the land spirits are confused why someone with such low vibrational frequency owns their sacred space. The background character comment hit particularly hard. She's been using this term for me since high school, and our parents never corrected her. According to their worldview, Emily is the star who deserves the spotlight, while I'm just there to support her journey. They've literally said this to my face multiple times. Last week, things escalated. Emily announced she's launching weekend emergence retreats for her followers at my cabin. She's already created a website with professional photos she somehow took of my property, advertising transformational experiences in Emily's mountain sanctuary. She's charging $1,500 per person for a weekend of what appears to be yoga, journaling, and listening to her talk about consciousness. When I told her absolutely not, she had what I can only describe as a narcissistic meltdown. She called our parents crying, saying I was suppressing her purpose and jealous of her light. They immediately called me, with my father saying, "Your sister has a gift, James. Why must you always try to dim her shine? That cabin sits empty most weekends while she could be changing lives." My mother added, "We didn't raise you to be selfish. Special people like Emily need special spaces. You should be honored she wants to bless your cabin with her presence." I'm exhausted. I work 50-hour weeks, paid off my student loans, saved every penny for that down payment, and spent countless weekends fixing the place up. Meanwhile, Emily has never held a job for more than 3 months because every boss is too threatened by her power or not ready for her revolutionary ideas. The worst part? She genuinely believes she deserves my cabin more than I do. This isn't manipulation. She actually thinks the universe made a mistake giving it to me instead of her. And our parents reinforce this delusion constantly. I'm at the point where I'm considering installing security cameras because I wouldn't put it past her to just show up with a group of followers. Am I crazy for thinking this is absolutely insane? How do I deal with family members who genuinely believe one person is more deserving of property because they're more magnetic? Update 1, 2 weeks later. Well, I thought it couldn't get worse. I was wrong. Despite explicitly telling Emily she cannot use my cabin, she went ahead with her first emergence retreat last weekend. I only found out because one of her followers tagged the location on Instagram, and I have alerts set up for my address. Paranoid, I know, but justified as it turns out. I immediately drove up there, a 3-hour drive that I spent alternating between rage and disbelief. When I arrived, there were 8 cars in my driveway and on my property. Through the windows, I could see about 12 people in yoga poses on my living room floor, with Emily at the front wearing flowing white robes like some kind of guru. I walked in, using my own key to my own house, and told everyone they needed to leave immediately as they were trespassing on private property. The looks I got were incredible. One woman actually said, "You can't kick us out. We paid for this experience." Another asked Emily if I was the negative entity she'd mentioned might try to disrupt their sacred container. Emily's response? She stood up, smiled serenely, and announced to the group, "Everyone, this is my brother James. He's here to learn about releasing attachment. The universe brought him here today to witness transformation in action. James, there's still space in the circle if you'd like to join us for this healing." I lost it. I told everyone they had 15 minutes to get off my property or I'd call the police. Emily then switched tactics, her serene mask dropping as she hissed, "You're committing spiritual violence right now. These people paid good money to be here." "They paid you money to trespass on my property," I shot back. She actually said, and I quote, "Property is just a human construct. This land chose me as its steward. Your name on some paperwork doesn't override cosmic selection." I called the police. While waiting, I heard Emily spinning the situation to her followers, saying this was actually a perfect teaching moment about how the unawakened cling to the material world, and that their retreat was being upgraded to include a real-world lesson in non-attachment. When the officers arrived, Emily tried to convince them that she had ancestral rights to the land that superseded legal ownership. She actually told a cop that his limited third-dimensional thinking couldn't comprehend the multidimensional property agreement she had with the cabin. The officers were professionally confused but made everyone leave. Emily's followers looked at me like I just burned down an orphanage. One woman said I had definitely damaged my karma for several lifetimes. Another informed me that she was an energy healer and could feel the darkness in my aura. The aftermath was swift. Emily called our parents before I even got home. They were waiting in my apartment parking lot. Not to apologize, no, to stage what they called an intervention for my toxic masculinity and scarcity mindset. "My father, your sister was trying to build something beautiful, and you called the police on her? On your own sister." "My mother, Emily says those people paid $1,500 each. That's $18,000 you just cost her. We raised you better than this." "Me, she was trespassing. She brought strangers to my property without permission." "My mother, permission? She's your sister. Family doesn't need permission. Besides, Emily told us you never use the cabin. Why let it sit empty when she could be healing people?" "My father, you know what your problem is? You've always been jealous of Emily's charisma. Just because you're more." He paused, searching for a word that wouldn't sound too harsh. "Conventional doesn't mean you should sabotage her success." Then came the kicker. My mother pulled out her phone and showed me Emily's Instagram, where she'd already posted about the incident. The post read, "Beautiful souls, today's retreat ended unexpectedly when someone very close to me chose fear over love. This person, trapped in the illusion of ownership, couldn't bear to see others ascending to their highest selves in a space he hoards for his ego. I'm not angry. I feel only compassion for those who haven't yet awakened to abundance consciousness. The retreat will continue next weekend at an even more powerful location. The universe always provides for those who serve the light." Folded hands sparkles. The comments were brutal. Hundreds of her followers calling me an energy vampire, a spiritual suppressor, and worse. Someone even found my LinkedIn and started messaging my employer about their toxic employee who traumatizes healing practitioners. But here's the part that really gets me. My parents didn't just take her side. They're actively funding her next retreat. They've paid for her to rent an actual venue, a luxury cabin resort about an hour from mine, for the next 3 weekends. The cost? $8,000 per weekend. When I asked how they could afford that on their retirement income, my mother said, "Supporting Emily's gifts is an investment in humanity." Update 2, 1 month later. The situation has escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. Emily's retreats at the rental venue have apparently been successful. She's now running them twice monthly and has raised her prices to $2,000 per person. Our parents have been attending every single one, not as participants but as what Emily calls her Earth advisors, Basically, they cook, clean, and handle logistics while she does her consciousness coaching. But success hasn't made her forget about my cabin. If anything, it's made her more determined. She's now telling people that my cabin is her spiritual birthright, and that I'm occupying it unlawfully in the cosmic sense. 2 weeks ago, I received a formal letter from a lawyer. Emily is actually trying to sue me for intentional infliction of emotional distress and interference with business relations. Her claim states that by denying her access to the cabin, I've caused her severe spiritual and financial damage and damaged her reputation with her followers. The lawsuit is insane. She's claiming the cabin called to her spiritually before I even bought it. And my purchase was actually a cosmic escrow. I was unknowingly buying it for her. By removing her from the property, I violated her religious freedom to practice space healing. As she suffered $100,000 in damages from lost retreat revenue. As she requires the cabin's specific vibrational frequency for her work. I showed the lawsuit to my lawyer friend, Michael, who couldn't stop laughing until he realized I was serious. He said while the case is ridiculous, I still need to respond formally or risk a default judgment. Here's where it gets truly unbelievable. My parents are funding her lawsuit. They've taken out a $50,000 home equity loan to pay for her legal fees. When I confronted them, they were disturbingly calm. My father said, "James, we've been thinking. You've always been the stable one. You have a good job, savings, a simple life. Emily is trying to change the world. Doesn't it make sense for the cabin to go to someone who'll use it for a higher purpose?" My mother added, "We're not saying you should give it to her for free. Maybe she could pay you over time, once her business really takes off. Think of it as investing in your sister's future." I asked them what would happen if they couldn't pay back the loan. My mother actually said, "The universe doesn't let those who serve it fail. Emily's success is guaranteed because she's aligned with her purpose." Last week, Emily showed up at my apartment with our parents and someone she introduced as her spiritual advisor and witness. This woman, Rebecca, was apparently there to mediate a soul contract. Emily's proposal: I transfer the cabin to her, and in exchange, she'll energetically cleanse my apartment once a month. Give me a lifetime 50% discount on her retreats. Include me in her will to inherit her wisdom journals and crystal collection. Publicly acknowledge me as a supporting character in her awakening story. When I said no, Rebecca actually pulled out what looked like a contract written in calligraphy on parchment paper. It included phrases like "witnessed by the universe" and "sealed in the Akashic records." She seemed genuinely confused when I refused to sign it. Emily's response was to close her eyes, take a deep breath, and say, "I forgive you for not being ready to release your attachment. But know that the universe has ways of correcting imbalances. What's meant for me will always find its way." Our parents looked at me with such disappointment. My mother said, "We've given you everything Emily has. The only difference is she knows how to multiply blessings while you hoard them." That hit hard because it's completely untrue. They paid for Emily's 3 college attempts, her apartments when she couldn't make rent, her cars, her failed business ventures, a crystal shop, a yoga studio, a consciousness consulting firm. Meanwhile, I got told at 18 that I was self-sufficient enough to handle my own college loans. Update 3, 6 weeks later. The legal situation has become a complete circus. Emily's lawyer has amended the lawsuit twice, each time adding more bizarre claims. The latest version includes a 47-page document Emily wrote about her spiritual connection to the property, complete with photos of her meditating in various spots around the cabin during that one visit. It channeled messages from the land spirits. Testimonials from her followers about how they felt Emily's energy in the space even through photos. A genealogy chart she created showing how our great-great-grandmother was probably Native American, therefore giving Emily indigenous claim to any mountain property. She's not Native American, and this claim is both false and offensive. My lawyer, who I'm now having to pay $400 per hour to deal with this nonsense, says that while the case will almost certainly be dismissed, we still have to go through the proper legal channels. He also warned me that Emily could keep filing variations of this lawsuit, basically bleeding me dry through legal fees. But the legal drama is nothing compared to what's happening with our parents. They've now fully moved into Emily's worldview. They attend her retreats not just as helpers but as featured speakers, sharing their wisdom about raising an enlightened being. My mother has started a blog called Mother of Light, Nurturing the Divine Feminine, where she writes about Emily's childhood as if she were raising the Dalai Lama. Some actual quotes from her blog. Even as a baby, Emily would only cry when the energy in a room was misaligned. While James played with computers, Emily was downloading cosmic intelligence. We always knew one of our children was special. The other one is special too, in his own ordinary way. My father has been worse. He's been reaching out to my extended family, trying to get them to pressure me into giving Emily the cabin. My Aunt Linda called me last week saying, "Your dad says you're destroying the family over some cabin you barely use. He says Emily needs it for her calling. Can't you just share?" The financial situation with my parents has also deteriorated. They've now taken out an additional $30,000 loan to fund Emily's expansion. She's convinced them she needs to trademark her method, create an online course, and hire a professional film crew to document her retreats. They're essentially bankrupting themselves for her empire. When I tried to have a serious conversation about their finances, my father said, "James, you think so small. Emily is building something that will take care of all of us. Once she's successful, money won't be an issue." I asked what happens if she's not successful. My mother literally laughed and said, "Failure isn't in Emily's vocabulary. The universe doesn't let its chosen ones fail." Then came the security incident. I'd installed cameras at the cabin after the first trespassing incident. Last Thursday, they caught Emily trying to break in at 3 a.m. with 2 of her followers. They had sleeping bags, candles, and were apparently planning to conduct what she later called a property reclamation ceremony. When the police responded to the alarm, Emily told them she was performing a religious ritual and had ancestral permission to be there. She actually showed them the parchment contract Rebecca had prepared, insisting it was legally binding in universal law. She was arrested for attempted breaking and entering and trespassing. My parents bailed her out immediately and then called me, furious that I'd had their daughter arrested. My mother was crying, saying, "How could you do this to your sister? She was just trying to connect with her space." Emily posted about the arrest on Instagram, framing it as a dark night of the soul, and comparing herself to various historical figures who were persecuted for their truth. Her followers are eating it up. Someone started a GoFundMe for her legal defense called Support Emily's Sacred Mission, which has raised $15,000 so far. Final update, 4 months later. This will be my final update because the situation has reached its conclusion, though not in any way I could have predicted. Emily's criminal case for the break-in was supposed to go to trial, but she fired 3 public defenders for not understanding the multidimensional nature of property rights. She decided to represent herself, which went about as well as you'd expect. During the hearing, she told the judge that the court had no jurisdiction over her because she was a sovereign being of light, operating under universal law, not maritime law. She actually brought crystals to court and tried to sage the courtroom for energetic justice. The judge was remarkably patient but ultimately found her guilty of trespassing and attempted breaking and entering. She was sentenced to 100 hours of community service and 2 years of probation during which she cannot come within 500 feet of my property. When the sentence was read, she stood up and announced that she did not consent to this reality and would be appealing to a higher court, the Cosmic Tribunal. But here's where everything fell apart for Emily and our parents. The IRS had been investigating Emily's business after someone, not me, though I wish I could take credit, reported that she wasn't paying taxes on her retreat income. Turns out, Emily had been telling her followers to pay her through various apps as gifts to avoid taxes. She also hadn't registered her business, didn't have permits for commercial use of rental properties, and was illegally claiming to be a licensed therapist in her marketing materials. The investigation revealed she owed nearly $40,000 in back taxes and penalties. But worse, they discovered our parents had been claiming her retreat expenses as charitable donations on their taxes, since Emily had convinced them her work was ministry. The financial house of cards collapsed fast. Our parents couldn't afford the payments on their home equity loans, especially after the IRS hit them with their own penalties. They had to put their house on the market. It sold quickly but for less than they owed, leaving them with nothing. Emily's response to losing her funding? She publicly blamed our parents for manifesting poverty consciousness and sabotaging her abundance through their limiting beliefs. She actually posted a video saying they needed to take responsibility for attracting this financial karma. My parents were devastated, not just financially, but emotionally. My mother called me crying, saying Emily had blocked them on all social media and wouldn't return their calls. They'd given her everything, and she discarded them the moment they couldn't fund her anymore. Emily tried one last desperate move. She created a new narrative that I had orchestrated everything, the IRS report, the legal troubles, our parents' financial ruin, as part of a patriarchal suppression of divine feminine power. She launched a crowdfunding campaign to fight the oppression and raised about $8,000 before the platform shut it down for violating their terms of service. As for our parents, they're now living in a small apartment, their retirement savings gone. The saddest part is they're still making excuses for Emily. My mother says Emily is just going through a growth phase, and will come back when she's ready to forgive them for their failure. Last week, they asked if they could visit the cabin for a weekend to clear their heads. It was the first time in years they'd acknowledged that it was actually my cabin. We spent 3 days there, and it was quietly heartbreaking. My father finally said, "We really screwed up, didn't we? We gave her everything and you nothing, and somehow you're the one taking care of us." My mother added, through tears, "We always called her special and you ordinary. But you're the one who worked hard, saved money, bought this place. You're the one answering our calls. We had it backwards the whole time." I wish I could say their revelation made me feel vindicated, but mostly I just feel sad. They destroyed their financial future for someone who called me a background character, and even now, they're hoping she'll forgive them. Emily, meanwhile, has reinvented herself again. She's now calling herself a persecution survivor and running online workshops about overcoming family trauma and systemic oppression. Her latest Instagram bio reads, "They tried to dim my light with lawsuits and limiting beliefs. I chose to shine anyway. Sparkles." She still refers to my cabin as the stolen sanctuary in her posts, but legally, she can't come near it. I've kept the security cameras and installed a few more. I also got a restraining order after she sent me a series of messages saying the universe would restore balance, and I would lose everything I'd hoarded. The restraining order led to Emily losing her probation deal and spending 30 days in jail. She live-streamed from jail when she could, calling it a spiritual retreat imposed by the Matrix. Her follower count actually grew. As for me, I still have my cabin. I go there most weekends now, partly to enjoy the peace and partly because I'm helping our parents navigate their new reality. They're looking for part-time work at 59 and 57, their credit is destroyed, and they're facing a retirement with nothing to their name. Sometimes I sit on my deck, looking at the mountains, and think about how Emily was partially right about one thing: this place is special. But not because the universe selected her as its chosen steward. It's special because I worked for it, earned it, and maintained it despite everyone telling me I should give it to someone more deserving. The irony is that Emily could have just asked to use it occasionally, like a normal person, and I probably would have said yes. But in her mind, ordinary requests are for ordinary people, and she's anything but ordinary. She's special. She's chosen. She's the main character. And now she's also banned from coming within 500 feet of my property, which, cosmically speaking, seems like the universe actually did sort things out after all. I don't know what the future holds for our family. Emily continues to build her following, now focused on persecution and resilience. Our parents are slowly accepting their new reality but still check Emily's Instagram daily, hoping for reconciliation. And me? I'm still the background character, I suppose. But at least I'm a background character with a cabin, a clean legal record, and the ability to sleep at night without believing the universe owes me everyone else's property. Sometimes being ordinary isn't such a bad thing after all.